Read on what's occurred so far.
Well, yesterday was the final day of cross-examination of Rebecca Vardy by Colleen Rooney's lawyer. And she did reveal that Caroline Watt, her agent, did previously leak information from Colleen Rooney's private Instagram story. Now, this concerns Mrs. Rooney posting a picture of a car crash, her car crash in January 2019. And she posted a picture of the wreck. Their WhatsApps were then read out in court between Rebecca Vardy and her agent, and they were discussing this crash, and they were talking about who was driving at the time. And Rebecca Vardy wrote back, "She defo was." Well, 2 days later, that story appeared in the Sun newspaper, and it's that story that led to Colleen Rooney writing on Twitter that she knew she was being betrayed by a close friend. Caroline Watt then messaged Rebecca Vardy on WhatsApp saying she thinks it's a close friend, but it's me. Now, Caroline Watt is the very same agent whose phone went missing in the North Sea. It unfortunately fell overboard 3 days after it was asked for evidence by the other side. And yesterday there was a laugh in court as David Sherborne, who is Colleen Rooney's lawyer, he joked that it was in Davy Jones's locker, to which Rebecca Vardy said, "Who is Davy Jones?" So then at that point the judge did have to intervene. But it does appear that unfortunately Caroline Watt is now not well enough to appear as a witness. Rebecca Vardy was previously adamant that neither she or Caroline leaked these stories to the Sun newspaper, but it does now appear she is willing to accept that perhaps Caroline did leak these stories, but she says she gave her no authorisation to do so. Now, under English libel law, the onus will be on Colleen Rooney to prove that her Wagatha Christie post, the now famous post, is substantially true, and her side will be happy if they can prove that the information and the stories were leaked by Rebecca Vardy or by Caroline Watt with authorisation from Mrs. Vardy.
Crumbs, it gets really complicated, and even Peter Andre has been dragged into it, hasn't he?
Yes, this was one of the more awkward moments of the trial, shall we say. In cross-examination on Tuesday, Rebecca Vardy was asked by David Sherborne if she respects people's privacy. She said she did. David Sherborne then read quotes from a 2004 article in the News of the World newspaper about her spending the night with Peter Andre. It was an exclusive interview. It's a bit too early to go into the contents of that article, but let's say it's very explicit, and there was a graphic imagery which was involving a miniature chipolata. Well, Peter Andre responded on Twitter yesterday. He said if a man had said that about a woman's anatomy, there would be outrage. And he said that he'd been silent for 15 years, but it had now been brought up in the High Court, and millions of people had heard about it now on social media. And the response to that video on Twitter by many members of the public was that he had a point. Peter Andre's name and the word chipolata was trending by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, which I think just highlights the public interest that there is in this case. And it does also show that a number of celebrity names are going to be brought up in this court, and that in its own has its own consequences.